I am so stoked to be here with you. I want to also be here in conversation with you as well. So please feel free to pop any questions in the chat box as we go, and we can just be in conversation and in community. Can you kickstart in the chat box by letting me know how old your child or your children are? So as we're going through, I can make sure I am talking about your specific age or giving examples that are going to be helpful for you. And we'll wrap up here right at 12:45 so we can get you back into life. I know that carving out time to do anything as a parent feels like a feat in and of itself. So cheers to even being here and doing that. It is no small task, and I'm stoked to get to hang out with you. If you are new to me, my name is Alyssa Blask Campbell, and I am the CEO at Seed and Sow. I did research in building emotional intelligence in kids, and that's what all of our work is based on. So I have two books out right now. We have Tiny Humans, Big Emotions. It's that younger age, birth to about age 6, 7, and 6, 7, where my teen parents at. And then we have Big Kids, Bigger Feelings, which is around age 5 to 12, that elementary school range. I'm going to be letting people in as we come in here too. She's like full multitasking. Um, I am so stoked. Ooh, nice. So we have a nice spread. We have as young as 4 months and so far up to 14. Love it. So when we are cruising along here, please use that chat box. Ask me questions or be like, hey, explain that again. Dive into that deeper. One thing that I know to be true, I'm a mom of two kiddos, and then my co-author for Big Kids is also a mom of two, and all of our kids are so different, right? Like they just, maybe they are born that way, they come out of the womb differently, and figuring out who are they and how do we respond to that unique child is like half the battle here. And so we're going to dive into that today. And then how do you respond to them in ways that are going to support their social emotional development and ultimately allow you to be in relationship together? So, first and foremost, I will give you a little background and just our research. Co-created the collaborative emotion processing method. Love, pause real quick. There's a grandparent here. I love that. A million cheers to you. To all the grandparents diving into this work and saying, I get to keep learning and growing as I'm supporting these grandchildren. I love that. So Lauren, my co-author of Tiny Humans, and I co-created the SEP method, and it's 5 components. One is adult-child interactions. That's like has everything to do with how do we interact with the kid in front of us. The rest are about us. So we have self-awareness. This is where we're looking at what is coming up for us in that moment. What do we notice inside? For me, I'm not a big yeller, but I get real sarcastic and snippy and rude and just like everything feels urgent. And I can yell, let me tell you. I actually relatively recently were driving in the car on the way to school, and it was just like a disaster getting out for school that morning. The mornings are not my favorite, like the actual transition out of the door. My son, between like put your shoes on and get in the car, thinks of 7 million things he also really needs to do in that moment. And it drives me absolutely bonkers. And so we're like finally in the car. The kids are driving each other nuts. My son likes like quiet, calm, and my daughter has never met quiet or calm. And so they're kind of driving each other bonkers. And he keeps like doing things like throwing stuff like toward her direction, like a stuffy and something that's not going to hurt her, but it's annoying. And then she's yelling and he's yelling louder. And then I screamed, why are you being so rude to everyone around you? And which point he said, actually, mom, that was kind of rude. I was like, okay, yep, you're not wrong there. And so I said, you know what, buddy, you're right. I am going to pop my AirPods in. I'm going to listen to a song and calm my body so that I can be kind to you. So I pop my AirPods in. Now, it's not like a trip to the spa. He's not like, yeah, enjoy your lovely time with your AirPods in up at the front seat of the car. No, they're still bickering and driving each other nuts. But when I pop these noise canceling AirPods in, I hear way less of it. I can control the sound that's going into my ears, and it gives me enough of a break that I can then leave that and be kinder to them. I really, at that point, I'm like, I just need enough regulation in that moment to get me through the drop off, right? Like get them into the door at school and at childcare, and then I can, whew. And so, really, it's not like, how do I get regulated enough to last the rest of the day? I'm looking at, how do I get regulated enough to move through this transition, this challenging part, this bedtime, this dinner time. When we look at regulation for ourselves, it can often feel like we have to get to a place where we can navigate the rest of the day. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is how vital micro moments are. And that if I say, like, get up and I work out, or I have this like really calm morning to myself, or I like read, I don't do this. I love sleep so much and I will sacrifice it for literally nothing. Maybe a Taylor Swift concert, but otherwise nothing. And so, but if you were a human who's like, I'm going to get up and go for a run this morning, I'm going to work out, that run isn't going to carry you into dinner. Those effects are going to be fantastic for your body and for a while. And then that serotonin starts to wear off, and you need some more activities and more regulation strategies to help keep you going. So, we're going to look, instead of like like big overhauls that are like 30 minutes long or an hour, or when you're like, I just need to like lay in a dark room for the rest of the night and have nobody talk to me or touch me or need me or say, mom, mama, mom, watch this, mama, mama, hey, mom. I'm like, also try dad. He's here too. But when you get to that place, you're like, I'm so fried. I want to look at, how do we prevent that as much as possible through micro moments that are less than 3 minutes. Some are max a minute long, that are going to give your nervous system a recharge so that you can respond with intention. Because I can tell you all the things in the world. We're going to talk about the kids. We're going to go through adult child interactions, but I could talk to you about that all day. And in the moment, if you aren't accessing your own regulation, you're not going to be able to put it into practice. It's like me yelling at the kids in the car, like, why are you being rude to everyone around you? Actually, I'm the one in that moment that needs to regulate so that I can say something that's going to be more productive, that's going to give me a better ROI, right? Like, that's going to be more effective. Me yelling at him to stop being rude, he's not going to be like, oh, you're right, I am being rude. Let me just curb that behavior for you, mom. And so if I can regulate and find my calm, I can just say something in that moment that's actually going to be more effective. That's what I want to help you access. And that's why the SET method is one part adult child interactions and 4 parts us. So self-awareness is noticing kind of what that feels like when it's building. We have uncovering implicit biases. These are those like narratives we tell ourselves, like, you're old enough to know better, or why are they still crying at everything? They're 8 or whatever. They're not 2 anymore. I shouldn't be seeing this behavior. Those sorts of biases that will come up from our childhood, from our social programming, that tell us in the moment that something is true. And we get to look at it and decide, is this really true for me? Or is this something I learned in my childhood and I don't believe it to be true? An example for me, I grew up in a household where respect, and putting that in quotations, was really important. And it was like drilled into us. I also want to raise respectful, kind humans. That feels really important to me. Under the umbrella of respect when I was growing up was obedience. So, one way that we showed respect, in quotes, was to be obedient. That if specifically certain adults, if teachers, if my parents, grandparents said something, then I was supposed to be obedient. I was supposed to say, like, okay, yes, ma'am, no, thank you. Even if I didn't want to, even if it didn't feel right, even if I didn't understand, there was no room for, okay, but why? Or why do I have to shut off this show right now? Can I play 2 more minutes or whatever I was doing? And it was a no because I said so household. And one of the things that comes up for me in the moment is anytime I say something and my kids are disobedient and they don't just obey, I have that bias that pops up that's like, oh, am I raising somebody who's like entitled or disrespectful as a human? And I get to look at it and say, oh no, are they being disrespectful or are they being disobedient? And that those are two different things for me now. And I want to raise kids at this point for myself who are going to say, but why? And going to ask questions and get curious about things and not just listen and say yes because somebody told them to do that. And also, I want to raise respectful kids. So when it comes up in the moment, examining our biases is where we get to say, is what's the root of this? What's the story I'm telling myself about this behavior? And is it still something I believe to be true? And then we have self care. This is my favorite one because it's something that's gotten so buzzwordy. But for us, this is not like a night out or some big overhaul. For us, self care is how are you taking care of your unique nervous system throughout the day? And then that passes on to the kids. How do we help them learn how to take care of their unique nervous systems throughout the day? So when we look at this, we break down 9 senses. We look at your nervous system and look at these 9 senses. I'm going to actually share a slide with you if it'll allow me to. No, it will not. Okay, I'm not going to share a slide with you, but I'm happy to send slides out to y'all so that you can see the visuals. But we often hear of our 5 senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. There are 4 others that are super important for our regulation. We have our proprioceptive sense. This lets us know where our body ends and something else begins. So for our kids who have low proprioceptive awareness, they might climb all the time. They might hug too tight or push too hard. They might go to sit next to somebody and they sit too close. They even sit on them. These are kids who, when they're younger, might want to like sit in your lap at dinner time. They're like climbing all over your body. They're jumping on all the things. When we look at this as they get older, they might have still like high movement needs and they might bump into things like a bull in a china shop where it's like they plow right through stuff. That's me. I have low proprioceptive awareness. And so, like, my bed frame, it has not moved in years. It's been in the same spot, but I run into that sucker all the time where like I bump my legs on the bottom of it, have like bumps and bruises on my legs because I have a hard time knowing where does my body end and something else begins. We also then, when we're looking at this for kids who have high proprioceptive awareness, we'll see kids who have a bigger space bubble where they're like, yeah, you're close enough. I don't really want to snuggle into you. They might be kids who, when they're having a hard time, when they're having a big feeling, they don't want to be touched. They don't want your hug. They don't want you close. They might actually retreat and go into their room or take space because the closeness in proximity for them can be dysregulating. We then have our vestibular sense. This is located in our inner ear. It's responsible for our movement and balance. It keeps us upright. If you are someone who experiences like vertigo or motion sickness, that's all your vestibular system at work. And that is a vestibular sensitivity, where when you experience vestibular input, you might not need a lot of it before it feels overwhelming for your body. This is my daughter was on the swings this weekend, totally fine and healthy, but too much swinging, like sat up, threw up. And that is pretty common for her. She cannot have a lot of vestibular input. She gets motion sickness. My son could live on a swing. It is something that he actually at school has a little seat that spins kind of 120 degrees back and forth that sits on his chair. He can bring it to his rug spot. He has one at home that he uses specifically at the table for like dinner to get that movement in. If you're somebody who likes sitting in like a swivel chair in the living room or in an office chair that kind of moves and goes back and forth, that's vestibular input. My husband sits in one all day long. He's vestibular seeking. I sit in a stationary chair that does not move. My daughter and I are both vestibular sensitive. If I have too much of that input, I get nauseous. It's dysregulating for me. Then we have our interoceptive sense. This lets us know if we're hungry, if we're tired, if we have to go to the bathroom. Kids who have high interoceptive awareness, they might be really sensitive to pain or temperature of like the food is too hot or too cold. It can be too something. Bath water temperature, shower water temperature might have to be like really perfect because they're so sensitive to those temperature changes. They might really notice if they have to go to the bathroom, or they can notice hunger cues in a way where they can get so hungry that they might actually prefer to snack because the feeling of hunger comes so early for them that before they're really fully hungry and they could eat a meal, they're noticing that hunger feeling. Kids who have a low interoceptive awareness, they might have what looks like a higher pain tolerance. They don't really care if their food is super hot or warm or whatever. There's not like a perfect temperature for them that they need to have it at. And then when it comes to things even like hunger, they actually might not notice those hunger cues, and then they get hangry where they don't see it coming, whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry because they had a hard time noticing those cues. And then we look at our last sense is our neuroceptive sense. This is what I call our spidey sense. It lets us know if there's safety or danger in the space. So for this one, these are our like energy readers where they notice like the tone, the body language. I had a preschooler once when I was teaching who would say, Miss Alyssa, I can't talk to you with that face on. And it was when I was like frustrated or annoyed and I was trying to say the right things and trying to be calm and kind. But I'm like, we're trying to get out the door and I've got 15 other kids lined up in their coats and their boots and their jackets. And this kid's trying to do his zipper himself. And I'm like, these other kids are going to melt soon. I feel like I'm living on borrowed time and I'm feeling annoyed, like that pressure of like, come on, let's go. But I'm trying to say the right things. And he could read all of the energy. Right. He could see my face, my body language, all of that. He was so aware of. And it didn't really matter the words I was saying because he was experiencing the energy I was putting out through all my nonverbal cues. And so our neuroceptive sensitive kids, they really read the energy of the space, the tone, the body language. Sometimes this can show up as codependence as they get older. What this looks like is they're really aware of what other people think of them. And so if they feel left out, if they feel embarrassed or made fun of, that is really tough for them. And then if you pair that with if they're also interoceptive sensitive, not only do they notice it, but then feelings for interoceptive sensitive humans are heightened. So they feel things bigger, literally in their body, it feels bigger for them. So vulnerability can be really tough for these kids. Guilt, embarrassment, shame, that feeling of being left out as that peer influence comes into play, especially as they turn like 7, 8 years old. And all of a sudden, like how other people think of them matters so much. This can play a huge role in their regulation. And we actually have a free questionnaire that you can take. I'm going to put the link here in the chat box. It's seedquiz.com. It's totally free. We worked with a group of occupational therapists to put it together. You can take it for any age and any stage, and it'll show you on the results. In fact, it'll give you some like ideas of like, are they high sensory seeking or sensory sensitive? Those are way less important than looking at the 9 senses on your results. And it'll show you, is this person, is this the kid or you, more sensitive or more seeking? More sensitive means you really notice those things and it can drain you. More seeking means it is really regulating for you. So those are the types of activities we're going to bake in throughout the day for self-care, the things that are really regulating for you. And then if you know, for me, I'm sound sensitive. So if both the kids are like, mom, 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 come check this out, mom, mom. And there's like competing sounds happening, especially if there's like background music or anything else going on in the space, it makes me want to throw up and rage scream. Like I get so flooded. And so for me, I know that I have to wear some earplugs or something in the evening. I generally wear loop earplugs from like 4 to 7 p.m. because it just makes the sound a little more tolerable. It gives me a little more bandwidth as a sound sensitive human. Sick. Judy said, I love this quiz. I'm so glad. I'm glad it's helpful. And then we can see what are we seeking. For me, I'm seeking proprioceptive input and touch. And so those are things I know I've got to bake in throughout the day. I need to snuggle up next to people and be close to them. I need to sometimes I like resist the urge for a hug. Like my husband comes in from work and I'm doing all the things. If I actually at that moment give like a 20-second hug, it's really recharging for me, but it feels hard for me to slow down and allow 20 seconds to happen, which sounds bonkers when I say it out loud, but yeah, it's just like go, go, go. And someone be comforted by sound, but is also sensitive to it. Yes. So when you're in control of sound, it's regulating. When you're not in control of sound, then it's dysregulating for sound sensitive folks. So that's why I popped my AirPods on. I listen to one song in the car because then I'm in control of that sound. So it's regulating. My son is sound sensitive and he will like play music in his room, or he actually likes like instrumental music, random. And it's just like calming for him because he's choosing the sound. Also, sound sensitive humans sometimes are loud. Like it's the kid who's like yelling or screaming or making a bunch of noise, especially when it feels like there's a lot of noise going on that they're not in control of. They'll make noise to feel in control of it. Does that make sense? Great. Um, so when we're looking at the nervous system and the sensitivities versus what we're seeking, we're going to hone in on this a bunch because it's really key for your regulation and then figuring out how do I respond to this unique child? Because for me in my household, for instance, my son is more sensory sensitive. So he is sound sensitive and visually sensitive, taste, smell sensitive. He is touch sensitive. Shoes and socks and clothes can be too itchy, too tight, too scratchy, too something. And it for him like is really draining. He also is proprioceptive sensitive, so he has high proprioceptive awareness. It drains him if I'm like touching him, I'm giving him a deep squeeze, I'm really close to him. Now his safe people he can get closer to, and he'll like sit on my lap and watch a movie sometimes, or snuggle up. But my daughter is high proprioceptive seeking. She would climb back inside the womb if she could. And when she's having a hard time, if she's on my lap or I can give her a snuggle or I can put my hand on her, I can hold her hand, it's really calming for her. She also is a sensory seeker across the board. She's seeking more stimuli than my son is. And so for her, she like wants me to talk to her in the moment. When she's having a hard time, she like wants a dissertation. She's like, tell me about my feelings. Yes, validate what just happened and what's going on. Be close to me, like hold my hand and talk to me about it. I'm like, oh my goodness, do you want to hear a story? Guess what? One time this happened to me too. And she wants all of that. My son in the moment is for like, the love of everything holy, mom, can you stop talking to me and just leave me alone for a minute, but like be near me, but don't touch me. And so if I responded to her the way that I need to respond to him, it wouldn't work for her, and vice versa. And so when we understand how their nervous system works, what drains them and what recharges them, it then can customize how do I respond to this unique human? Does that make sense? So you're going to go to seedquiz.com. You're going to take that questionnaire for all the humans in your household. I also love doing it with my big kids. So we do a lot of work in schools. In fact, that's predominantly what we do at Seed. We work in elementary and middle schools, and then we work in childcare programs. And we help them do this in schools, in practice. Like, how are we getting kids as regulated and as resourced from a regulation perspective as possible, so they have capacity for things like academic learning and navigating social and emotional challenges throughout the day. When we're doing this, though, if you can understand your kiddo, I love when we are doing it with the big kids. You sit down and take the questionnaire with them, and then we can talk to them about it. Like, oh, yeah, you know what I noticed? It says you're visually sensitive. I understand that I'm visually sensitive too. When we come through the house and there's piles of things on the counter, or there's shoes here and laundry there, it is really uncomfortable for my body because I'm visually sensitive too. I notice all of those details and all of those things, and it drains me. And once those things are put away, it's really calming for my body. We can connect with them and break down how their brain and body work so that they can learn these things about themselves, especially for our big kids. So when we're working in schools, we start to have them do the questionnaire with an adult around like third grade, depending on the kiddo, but typically around third grade. And before then, we can also still talk about it. I mean, I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and we talk about this all the time of like how their brains and bodies work and why like mom does not like to go on the swings, but dad does. And we can really break it down that way. And when we do all this and we focus on that regulation piece first, then we can move into like the behaviors. How do we respond in the moment? And the biggest thing that comes up in this big kids age range is defiance. where maybe when they're two, they're melting down in the grocery store. They are kicking and screaming, literally. They don't really care for the most part, for most kids, about what everyone around them thinks of them. Because the way that their brain develops is that they have to be egocentric first. And then as we get into like age 7, age 8, all of a sudden inclusion and belonging really come into play. And so it becomes really important that they pay attention to how everyone else is perceiving them. There's really great research around this. Brene Brown has some research around this that looks at how under the age of 7, we are really reliant on an adult to keep us alive and thriving and safe. And then over the age of 7, not as if you like drop a 7-year-old in the wild and they're going to thrive, but they are able to turn to community and say, okay, where do I go? I can walk maybe or get around and communicate in some ways and figure out what I need to stay alive, who I can go to. I can knock on a door. I can call for help. I know that this person lives over here. There's a park over there. This is school and this is home. And with this comes the social component, that because they're so aware of what's happening around them, what they need is social belonging to thrive. They need to feel like they are included and like they belong in order to thrive in the world. We are social primates. This really starts to fine tune around 7 and then skyrockets from there, which is why all of a sudden it matters what water bottle they have, what shoes they have. I want to do soccer because this person's doing it, or I'm so bummed or disappointed that I didn't make the team because my bestie did, or I'm going to feel left out, or there's a birthday party, there's a hang happening, people are going to the movies. I'm not included in that. And all of a sudden that matters so much. And what we start to see happen is defiance, where they don't want to be kicking and screaming in the grocery store because they're aware of the eyes watching them, noticing, looking at them. And so we'll see things like sarcasm, snippiness, rudeness, the eye roll, the slamming of a door, the I'm not going to, or the lying, the sneaking around. All of a sudden, it starts to turn and change in terms of how their dysregulation can show up. And for a lot of us in our childhood, if you were raised anything like I was raised, when you were defiant, most likely an adult wasn't like, oh, you know what? Alyssa's just dysregulated right now. That's what's going on for her. Most of us did not get that reaction. And so now when our kids are being defiant, it feels like they are in control, like they are choosing this. Just recently, I have the like glorious hour from like 4 to 5-ish where I have my kids after school. Everyone has different needs and is a little hangry and just kind of spent from the day. And then my husband comes in at about 5:15 and he walked in and he was like, hey, what's for dinner? And in that moment, I was really dysregulated. The kids were at each other. I had had a day. And I just turned and I was like, nope. Yeah, there's a lot of questions you can ask right now. What's for dinner is not one of them. Hey, Liz, you need a break? You need to tap out? How can I be helpful? You can pop in and just start parenting. Like, that's what came out. I'm not yelling. I am not screaming, but I'm definitely not regulated. On the outside, it might look like I'm choosing sarcasm. I'm choosing to be rude. This is not the best thing for my marriage. This is not going to be the most productive way to navigate this conversation. This is a dysregulated brain. This is a brain that if I accessed regulation, I would have said, hey, I need to step away for a minute. Can you just tap in? And then stepped away, calmed myself, come on back, and then said, hey, it's been an afternoon. We just need to get dinner on the table. I think all the humans in this space are hangry. And before we can dive into anything else, I just need to feed the people. And that's what it would have looked like in a regulated state. But in a dysregulated state, I'm sarcastic, I'm snippy, I'm rude. When our kids are being defiant, When they are rolling their eyes and slamming their door and yelling something that is rude to their sibling, it's not a choice. They're not in control of their words and their actions in that moment. They are in a dysregulated brain. And so in that moment, it can sometimes look like we're ignoring the behavior. I'm going to set and hold physical boundaries. I won't let you hurt somebody. I won't let you scream in somebody's face. Like, I'm going to set and hold some physical boundaries. And then I'm going to focus on co regulation. That in that moment when I'm like sarcastic and snippy and rude to my husband, if you walked in that moment and you were like, Alyssa, it is not okay to talk to Zach like that. You need to go apologize to Zach. That's not how we speak to people in this house. I want to throat punch you in that moment because that's not helpful. What I need in that moment is someone who can help bring me down, who can co regulate with me and say, "Whew, man, having kids is tough. Why don't you step away and we'll circle back together in a couple minutes?" Or why don't you choose the song and we're just going to pause and have a dance party because nobody's ready to be kind right now. Why don't you pop in your AirPods, Alyssa, and listen to something for 3 minutes and then come on back? When we can respond to our kids in the moment, acknowledging that behavior, but then jumping right into co regulation, it allows us to help get their brain back online so that they can choose their words, choose their actions, choose their tone, choose their body language. When we are in a regulated state, that's the only time we have access to control over those things. Otherwise, we're in a reactive state and we're not choosing our words, our tone, our actions. When we do this, for a lot of us, one thing that comes up is, okay, but I'm feeding in to this behavior. A lot of us grew up in cultures where we learned about things like planned ignoring, like ignore the behavior you don't want to see, give praise and attention to the behavior you do want to see. What we know about that is that if you are ignoring, you are not skill building. So a child in that moment is doing everything they can with the tools they have in that moment. They might be able to tell me outside the moment. I mean, I have a master's degree in this. I do research in this. I am not resourced all the time. I know better than to yell at my husband or react with sarcasm or snippiness or rudeness in that moment. But I don't always have access to all of our tools. Nobody does. Having skills and having access to them are two totally different things. When you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're overstimulated, when you're overwhelmed, when you're having a hard feeling, you won't have access to all of your tools because you're a human on planet Earth. Your kid will not have access to all their tools all the time. You're not failing if they're reacting sometimes. They're a human on planet Earth, and that's what happens with being humans on planet Earth. What we get to do is outside of that moment, when we come through co regulation, say, hey, I've noticed that after school has been really tough. We've been having a lot of hard times as a family, just being kind to each other. We're going to put together a family plan so that everyone can recharge after school before we're doing anything else, before we are doing homework, before we're talking to each other, before we are trying to exist together so that everyone's needs can get met before we're doing those things. I have learned for myself that when I feel overwhelmed or overstimulated by the people around me, sometimes the only kind thing I can do is to say as little as possible. It's okay if the only kind thing you can do is say, I can't talk to you right now. I need space from you right now. No, I don't want to do that right now. Letting them know that they can tap out from things. If it's the from Bambi, remember Bambi throwback? Y'all remember this from the 90s? The thumper rule. Like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all was like the thumper rule. And that this, like if I can't access kindness, I have learned for myself when we're going on like a trip as a family, the like 2 hours leading up to getting in the car, I just can't really talk to my husband very much because in those 2 hours, I'm so good at finding all of the things that he's terrible at. Like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one who thinks to pack all these things. Or what did he think was going to happen when we got there and they had no pajamas or they had no snacks for the car? Did he think those were going to magically appear? Like, that's what ends up coming out of my mouth, even though he's a phenomenal partner. He's typically done at least half of the planning. We actually have pretty good systems. I know for myself, I get really overwhelmed with all the logistics about 2 hours leading up to actually getting in the car. And so I've learned that if I can say as little as possible in those 2 hours, it's great for everyone. I have said this to him. He knows it. He is very down with me saying as little as possible in those last 2 hours. And then once we're in the car and we're on the go or we're on the plane or wherever we're doing, and then I start to calm and then I can access kindness again. But it's okay for our kids to say, like, I can't do this right now. I can't talk to you right now, or I don't want to play with you right now. And then what we need to resource them with, which is where we pull in the questionnaire result, is what do you do next to recharge your body that's going to then allow you to do your homework, to sit at the dinner table if that's important to your family, to engage in conversation kindly with the people around you. When we're looking at those things, what we're looking at is, do they need to move their body? And if so, what types of movement are going to be helpful? For our proprioceptive seekers, that means deep pressure, heavy work, think like CrossFit for kids, like lifting heavy things or pushing heavy things. Big movements, jumps, going for a run, jumping on the trampoline, doing jumping jacks. For our vestibular seekers, this is going to be moving the plane of your head. So it could be spinning, going on a swing, spinning on an office chair, dipping upside down. My son will watch TV hanging upside down on the couch. When we're looking at our high connection versus low connection seeking kids, this can look like our high connection seeking kids can come home from school and they're like, I haven't seen you all day and I just need to debrief my day. For some of them, that's auditory, where they're like, tick, 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 tick. I just need to like talk about all the things that happen throughout the day and really feel connected and kind of offload that. For some kids, connection happens through like arts expression, where it is painting, drawing, coloring, music, being able to like outsource it creatively through play, where they might go in and like play with toys afterward to be able to offload that. For some kids, we're going to see connection seeking start to skyrocket for our bigger kids as that like peer influence piece comes into play, where they might want to play a video game or call a friend or do an after school activity or connect with the neighbors because they are feeling a connection need that's peer focused and not necessarily just adult focused. So when we look at like what is driving this behavior, do they need to connect or feel like they're included or like they belong or process like emotionally their day and have some validation around that? Or do they have sensory needs where they need to move their body in certain ways or have a break from stimuli where they can like go in their room, have some quiet time, calm time, play with their toys, kind of do whatever in there and not have somebody saying like, how was your day? What'd you do at school today? Oh, how did you do on that math test? What ended up happening with Sarah and everything that was going on there? Like for some kids, before they can engage in any of that, they just need calm and quiet and downtime. Also for you as an adult. So if you're a human who needs more movement and that like connection and you want to talk through the day, and you have a kid who's like, actually, I need space. We have to look at how do we fill your cup outside of your child so that then they can open up when they want to in ways that they want to. And for those kids, opening up might not even be verbal. It might be texting back and forth at some point or writing notes or having a shared journal or sitting down and like playing a game at the table together that you're not even talking about the day. And then little things might come up where they start to open up. They're not necessarily going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to offload and auditorily process my day with you. That might not be how they process information. And if that's how you process information, that can be a connection mismatch We have to look at how do we fill your adult connection needs so that you can meet them in the way that they connect, not just what your needs are in connection. I feel like I could do this forever with y'all. We could continue to go so deep in this. I am so grateful for your time today. And ultimately, what I want you to know is that everyone on planet Earth is regulated sometimes and dysregulated sometimes. And you're not failing if you're getting dysregulated. You're not failing if your child is getting dysregulated. It's all a part of being a human on planet Earth. And what we do next, how do we access regulation, is what's key. How do we reconnect with each other is what's key. We're all in the business of just being in relationship with one another. And it's going to get messy and it's going to get hard and it's sometimes going to feel overwhelming. You're not failing if it feels that way. That is how it is to be in relationship with people. And especially if you're trying to parent in a way that's different from how you've been raised. So, both of my books are packed full of resources and tools. We also hang out over at seed.and.so on Instagram. And I have a podcast, Voices of Your Village podcast, that you can come check out. It's free. We drop an episode every week. And then, if you're interested in bringing this work to your child's school, reach out to us at support@seedandso.org and we can chat with you about ways to do that. You're the bomb. Thanks for caring about this work and diving into this with me. I hope to hear more from you. Please come over into my DMs and let me know your biggest takeaway or what was hitting home or what you're more curious about still. Let's keep that conversation going. Thanks, everybody. Oh, I love that. Katie said, thank you. Currently reading Big Kids and it's a game changer. I love that so much. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.